Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis Gianoutsos. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
How much time do you have, man? I've written a whole book about it. No, thanks for having me. I think what's funny is Design Pickle started out, there was no Design Pickle when I started it. And it was for me solving my own business problems, just like yourself. I needed design help. I was trying to find a solution that fit my budget, fit the quality. And it was frustrating. It was challenging. And I always relish, pun intended, there's a lot of pickle puns in my world. I always relish in the knowledge that Design Pickle was I was the first client. I was the first client of the service. We didn't have the brand at that point, but I found a way to put together a team virtually, a team that was responsive, a team that was affordable, and ran my consulting business on the bones of Design Pickle, like the first generation of it for a good 90, 120 days until I finally had that, hey, wait a minute. Maybe other people might actually need this as well, and kicked it off from there. Last month, January 2021 was our 6-year birthday. So we've been now doing this for over 6 years, technically.
Oh, awesome. Happy birthday. That's wonderful. And 6 years. Amazing how that time has gone by so quickly as well. And that's great that you looked at wanting to solve your own business problem and then found a solution, but then also offering it up to others as well, which is brilliant. Hey, Russ, how have you gone into leadership? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I was just on a one-on-one with one of my engineers this morning, and we were talking about this exact topic. And
Mm,
I will actually go back to before Design Pickle, 2014. I had lost everything I had known as an entrepreneur. I had a creative agency for 8.5 years. I closed it with my business partner. And for the listeners out there, closing your business is worse than losing your business. It's definitely worse
mm,
than selling your business. I say closing your business is like putting your pet to sleep. It's like putting down the thing that you love and you care about, but it's horrible. It's horrible because there's no big story. It's pretty anticlimactic, to be honest. And at that point, I realized I needed an upgrade of my operating system, of the Russ Perry operating system. I had
mm.
been on a treadmill for 8.5 years, and I wasn't about to go for another 8.5 years with that same OS in my brain and in my heart. I needed a change, and I didn't really know where to begin. Here in Arizona, there's a lot of events in normal times. There's a lot of personal development. There's companies that have their offices here. So I reached out to my network, and I vividly remember my very first leadership training, personal development conference. It was everything in one. My friend Vanessa Shaw is her name. She was hosting it, and she didn't brand it as this, but it was actually basically a women's conference. But she didn't say that, and so I show up, me, maybe
Oh,
one
wow.
other guy, and her husband, who's, like, running the AV and the tech, and it was transformational, and it was the first time since I could remember I was working on myself, and I was thinking about that, and I was building that, and so I was addicted. I was addicted at that point to leadership. I was addicted to personal development because I recognized that so much of my limitations ahead were limitations of just my belief system, or limitations of my confidence, or limitations of my network and who I know and where we're at. And this study, this path that I was on was shattering those time after time. And they started small. Like, I remember one of the first goals that I had was to spend a summer, like 3 or 4 weeks in California. That was my big
Mm.
goal. Like, we had never done a beach vacation before. And so I wrote it down and I worked on it for 3 to 4 months, and we did it. And we had this great experience, which for me at the time was the biggest thing I'd ever done, was this really we had a home we could it wasn't on the beach, but we could walk there in about 10 minutes. And so anyway, like that has just been the pattern now is when I think about leadership, I think about what am I doing to upgrade my operating system? What am I doing to grow so that my capabilities are matching my vision?
Awesome. What am I doing to upgrade my operating system? I love that. I love that. And that last piece you said about your vision and your goals, is that what you said?
Yeah, so like my goals have always been my vision and my goals have always been huge, but my capabilities have not always been
Oh,
equal to match. So that's what I look at in terms of leadership is you're upgrading your skill sets to match that great destination that we all have. So if you're not doing that, you could have the biggest vision in the world, but that's all it's going to be is just a vision.
yeah, isn't it? It's really interesting to see that, and the fact that whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in a large corporate, it doesn't matter. If you're not out there developing yourselves, listeners, it's really important that we do that. For the 6 inches between your ears, what I call the attitude gap, that the operating system probably is what you're saying here, Russ, which is really important. But if you can align your capabilities to those goals and vision and then help, that'd be wonderful. And I think a lot of leaders don't do that, and they just hope for the best and see where things are going.
And there's some ego at play too that you have to get through, especially if you've had success in the past or you achieved relatively quickly. You either hang on to that success thinking, hey, I've done it before, I can do it again. Or if you're in the middle of it, you're currently at that point where things are going great, everything's aligned. What's if it's not broken, don't try to fix it kind of mentality. But there is that ego. And I had to battle that. I had to beat my ego down to nothing to say, look, I am willing to learn. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to hire others and invest in my and coaches and training programs and do these things. And maybe not 100% of everything you have to take on, but it finally allowed me to be humble enough to open that door of growth up. And I see that a lot with leaders is probably less so for your current listeners because the people probably listening to this are open, but maybe there's a friend, and there when that door is slammed shut, yeah, things might go for a bit, but then there's an awakening or a wall that you hit. And the question is, do you put that ego aside and are you willing to learn? Are you willing to grow? Are you willing to be guided by someone else?
Yeah, that is huge. Absolutely huge. Of course, the listeners here are on that path of learning, of course.
They're the most elite of them all,
Right.
enlightened of them
That's
all, I'm
awesome.
sure.
My friend, I can't even tell you how excited I am to be here with you. From day one that you and I connected, I've always known what just an amazing person you are, amazing leader you are. And now to see you doing this podcast, reaching out to so many leaders, I'm just so proud to be your friend and just excited to be with you today.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I've got goosebumps. It's awesome. I literally have got goosebumps. The fact that you and I are doing this episode together, which is really cool. And I know that I've done a quick introduction about your background here. And I know that you and I have gone through all sorts of different challenges over the last years, and we've come through it and we've let that change and move forward. Is there anything else that you like to share about your background?
I'll just try to give a shortened version of my life because I think so many times people will look at their life and the experiences that they've had, the choices that they've made, and they say, I can't be a leader. I've disqualified myself or no one would want to follow me. And this is what I believe. We all have a story to tell and we all have scars from life, but scars are a sign of healing. They are a sign of life. They mean we made it. And so I love to be the type of leader that shares my story and shows my scars because I believe that gives other people hope that they can make it too. I grew up with great parents, but unfortunately they divorced at the age of 5. I was the oldest child, so I took on a lot of pressure from that. I was molested by babysitters at 6 and 9. I had a tough teenage years as a young man. I was lost in the world, just having a lot of fun, but not finding any fulfillment in life. You can make money and drive nice cars and date beautiful women and have nice things. And at the end of the day, you can be miserable when you lay your head on the pillow. And that was my life until around 31. I decided that it wasn't enough. And I started to change my life, make those choices that would change me forever, embracing growth embracing so many changes in all areas of my life. And that really led me to where we're at today.
Wow. So that background, you're talking about your parents. Where does your surname come from, Sean?
It's Italian.
It's Italian. So here
Yeah.
we are. We've got a Greek and an Italian on the episode. And listeners, I want you to know that we don't actually have food in front of us.
We should.
We should. It's a bit weird that we don't, but we should. Yes, absolutely. Sean, wonderful background that you've just shared, and thank you for doing that. The question here for me is, how did you get into leadership?
It's a great question. And I think as I was discovering my own journey and my own personal growth plan and growth development, I remember that I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I had entered into the entertainment industry and I wanted to help more people. I had been a firefighter in Oklahoma for 5 years, which was great. But deep down inside, I just felt there was more I was supposed to do. And so I got into entertainment. I had an opportunity to do that. And it wasn't to be famous. I could care less about fame. I just wanted more resources and more influence to help more people. So after doing that for 14 years in New York and LA, I just wasn't happy. It just wasn't the thing I was supposed to do. And so I decided to get out of entertainment. I didn't know what I was going to do. And you're going to love this story. So one night, it was a Wednesday night. I had gotten back into church, made God another part of my life again, because he hadn't been for so long. And there was a little woman, probably in her 70s, and she was headed my direction. I saw her just shuffling away, headed towards me. And I thought, what does she want? I've never seen her before. And my friend, she walked right up to me, got right all up in my personal bubble. And she just said, "Excuse me, young man, you're trying to figure out what to do with your life, aren't you?"
Whoa.
And I was like, as a matter of fact, yes, I am. And without missing a beat, she goes, "You got a big mouth. You ever thought about speaking?" So I giggled a little bit because it shocked me. And I said, "No, ma'am, but maybe I should." And she said, "Huh?" And she spun a 180 and off she went. I had never seen her before. I've never seen her since, but I could not, her words had a stickiness. I could not rid myself of that just connection we had. And so about 2 weeks later, I decided to go and move into the world of speaking. I had never thought it, never dreamed it. I thought it was the craziest idea. But the reality is, I just thought there's a reason that happened. And so I started telling people I was a speaker, and it just started to snowball as I got out there, found my way, started to get better. Obviously, in the beginning, we're all not great, but you just get better and you keep putting yourself out there. And over time, doors would open up that allowed me to keynote around the country and the world, to start business coaching, business consulting. And I have loved helping people find their dreams, discover their destiny, and take things to the next level now for over 20 years.
It's amazing how people come into our lives and give us a message at times to help us actually understand or wake up a bit. It's amazing. And the thing is that you had 14 years you weren't happy. I don't know if it was the whole 14 years you weren't happy, but at least it took you 14 years to realize I'm not happy in this, and then for you to move on to do something else. How many people in life are doing something in life and they're not happy with it? They're not willing to go and do a change, or they haven't realized they're not happy. Do you see that at all, Sean, that people would just take a long time, or they have no idea where they are? They have no awareness that they're not happy?
Absolutely. I think that one of the things I like to say a lot is that we have become human doings, not human beings. We are going through the motions in life and we're not truly living life. And so what I've encouraged people to do is don't take 14 years to figure out that you're not happy in a situation. That's not where you're called to be. Because the second I made that move, even though it was, and people need to really hear this, extremely uncomfortable as change is, but I was doing something I'd never even thought of. Sometime your dream will discover you if you just keep seeking it. And that's what happened with me. And I'm here to tell you, it was very uncomfortable. And I fought my way through fear and the desire to quit. But at the end of the day, I believe when we step into what God has called us to do, that he will move heaven and earth on our behalf. And that's exactly what I've seen. So I just want to encourage people. I've had so many people that have come up to me after keynotes and say, I have not been dreaming. I have not been happy where I'm at. I've had a few, which I feel bad, but I've had a few literally say, I'm quitting my job today.
Well,
And I know I'm supposed to do this other thing. One lady brought her boss to me and said, I just told him I'm resigning. Yeah, he laughed and he said, it's okay because I know she needs to go do this. But when you reignite the heart of a dreamer, anything is possible.
Fantastic. Hey, to all the bosses out there, sorry, but Sean and I have got things to do, and we've got to make it happen.
Sir.
It's awesome. Yeah, and I love it. We are human beings, but actually we should be human doings and getting out there and doing things and living the life that we should be living, which is really wonderful stuff that you're sharing there, Sean. Hey, here's a question for you in the sense that this person could be reliable from history. So who's your favorite leader and why?
You have the best questions. I go on some podcasts, they're like, what'd you have for lunch? I'm like, that's all you got? You have these questions that are deep, man. I love this. Oh, wow. My favorite leader. There's so many, but I think the one that I'm going to choose is one that some may or may not have heard of, but he has been instrumental, more instrumental than any other leader in my life. Of course, we can always go the safe route and say, Jesus, something like that. But here's the deal. The guy by the name of Tim Story from LA, this guy has been a coach and mentor of mine since 1997. And he was the first communicator that I saw be so raw and real and transparent from stage that told his story of growing up in a home with an alcoholic father who finally turned his life around, gave his life to God, and then was killed shortly after by a drunk driver, about his sister that was killed by a drunk driver, by his brother who struggled with alcohol and died at the age of 42. This amazing family. He still has 2 sisters and a mom, and I love the Story family. They have meant the world to me. But this man, to embrace his pain and to say, I'm going to turn that pain into promise, that pain into purpose, and to take that and change lives in over, I think it's 80 some odd countries all over the world. Oprah's had him on Soul Sunday. So see, this is what I'm talking about. When you embrace it and you don't run from it, God will move heaven and earth on your behalf. And this man has spoken into my life personally from a distance. I used to wear his cassettes out back when cassettes were a thing. So I would say he's been my favorite because there's so few leaders, I think, that are willing to be transparent because they feel like I have to keep a certain air about my ability or my talent or my title. And you got to throw that stuff out and be real because the world has changed in the last 12 to 24 months. And there's I believe, a new approach in terms of what people are looking for and what they need. And if a leader doesn't adapt to that, then you're not going to be connecting and changing anybody's life.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.